Hello, this is Meraz. Today I am going to talk about why service assurance is important in any infrastructure. My main focus working for the organization that I work currently is SPs, service providers. I have been working with service providers since almost 19 years ago. I have been working in automation process lately for a couple of service providers. Well, today I'm going to talk about, even though my main focus is mobility, automation, orchestration, and cybersecurity, today I'm going to talk about why service assurance is important in any network. Having the service assurance allows us to do remediation. Why? Because if we do just provisioning and we don't know what's happening or what's going wrong with whatever the process that we provision or whatever the services that we provision. Therefore, we are not gonna be reactive in a timely manner whenever the issues happen across the process or the services that we provision. Therefore, service assurance in the middle of this life cycle is really important because that's the only way that we are gonna do remediation in an automation way. Having this provisioning then make assurance of whatever the services that are going through this infrastructure are gonna be the way to do remediation. Therefore, I really believe that service assurance is part of the conversation. I really believe that service assurance is part of the digitalization that we are expecting to have in our networks. I really think that automation is gonna be the path that it's going to create a new innovation, a new ways to operate networks, and new ways to expand our CapEx, and a new ways to reduce our OpEx. Therefore, I think service assurance needs to be in the conversation with the SPs, and also, why not to say, with the enterprise corporations. Well, this is Meraz, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Hello. Let's talk about service assurance, automation, and 5G. Well, first of all, let's start with this Maslow hierarchy. This started with a concept of site reliability management. This guy, Dickerson, was working for Google. He realized when he was interacting with a couple of customers, he realized that a lot of people, they didn't have these concepts already embedded. He used to work with Google engineers who were already aware of this Maslow hierarchy, but when he started to work in a different project for the government, he realized that a lot of people didn't have this approach, and then he put together this Maslow hierarchy. Let's talk about a couple of aspects, and we are gonna focus on the service assurance aspect of the automation. Also, we are gonna cover the Google 4 golden signals, and the main concepts are related with traffic, errors, latency, and saturation. I like that picture because I think it portrays all these aspects. Service level indicator is a carefully defined qualitative measure of some aspects of the level of service that is provided. Then, for instance, when we have request latency, also when we have a throughput measurements, and also we can attach our service level indicators to the failure per request. Also, when we would like to accomplish service assurance, we need to take into account the service level objectives and also the service level agreements, and we need to understand these two level of indicators, which one is related with the values and service levels, and the other one is more related with the service that any service provider is delivering and also is trying to meet with the end customers. What are the drivers for the automation? Service assurance, quality of service, foul and event management, also on-demand resource allocation. We are gonna need a lot of service assurance because now with this microservices approach in the cloud, then we need to have this into account, and we need to make sure that whatever the services we are delivering, those need to be with assurance. Service-based architecture. Also, in the 5G network, all the network elements are NFVO oriented, which means that all of them could be containerized in VNFs, in virtual network functions as well. Low latency, we need to make sure that the latency that our services and also our cloud needs to meet with whatever we are trying to deliver. traffic is west, key performance indicators. All of these are drivers for automation. These are a couple of concepts that are related with the same concept of service assurance: Jan modeling, netconf, openconf, playbooks, which can be coming from different flavors, coming from Ansible, coming from Puppet, Chef, you name it. Workflows, since we are talking about different BNFs and also different microservices and network elements, we need to take into account the workflows. API, that's the way to translate the different interfaces and different functionalities and also the microservices through APIs. Playbooks, the playbooks can be contained in a manifest, and also, well, we need to take into account whenever we have solutions that are agent and agentless, like Ansible, for instance, is agentless, that it can be connected through a SSH protocol. Telemetry is important in order to make sure that we are delivering the services that we need to deliver. Jan modeling is a human readable way to represent the different configurations, and basically you can reduce the types and the groupings based on the structures that are put in place. It has a lot of support and definitions and data modularity, and also you can have a versioning rules and development support. This is an example of Jan modeling for a device. This is important because that's the way that we are going to interact through the different devices, either physical or virtual devices. But normally Jan modeling is used for physical devices. This is a comparison between when we don't have automation, when we have automation with Jan, how we are going to reduce the stack. This is important in a 5G network because, as I mentioned before, all the network elements are based on services. This is a service-based architecture. Every single network element now could be contained in a virtual network function. This is the reason why we need to take into account service assurance. It's really important because everything that flows east, west, southbound in a 5G network is a network element based on services, load balancing, and all that. These are the same concepts: control plane, user plane separation, the orchestration of the different NFVs, and the network slicing whenever we need to separate the different configurations. APIs, the same concept that we have already spoke. All the workflows are going to be important now in the cloud architectures, microservices, and service chaining. We mentioned that in the overview video. This is the MANO architecture. It's based on the ETSI. This is the way that we have, for instance, the VIM, the Virtualized Infrastructure Manager, based on this MANO architecture. Basically, a lot of service providers are adopting this MANO architecture, and they use NFVOs in order to orchestrate the NFVs. Now we are going to talk about open source and why this open source is important and how we can leverage a lot of functionalities coming from this open source. Istio, for instance, this is a very interesting proposal because we can handle the service mesh through Istio, because Istio provides transparent and language independent way to see and automate applications through network functions such as authorization and authentication. But not only this, we can have a service mesh through Istio, and we are going to be able to manage our workflows to Istio because it's a service mesh open source tool. These are other features that Istio can bring to the table. As it was mentioned before, it also brings authentication, authorization, and encryption. Apply policies and ensure that these policies are enforced in our service mesh as well. What is a sidecar proxy? It's an application that is designed based on patterns and also abstracts certain features such as inter-service communications, but also at the same time it provides monitoring and security. Here there is an example of in Istio about a sidecar. This is a YAML example, and we can see there is indentation in this example. This is a sidecar in order to manage the workloads in Istio. What is gRPC and why this is important? Since we are talking about the cloud, we need to have a high performance in the cloud, and also we need to support load balancing, tracing, health checks, authentication, but the most important thing is that we can have high performance plus a distributed architecture for different backend services. Other advantages about gRPC are service definition, simple service definition, and also scalability, plus the fact that it's polyglot, it supports multiple languages. Metrics, how we are going to be able to collect metrics. There are a couple of open source proposals that we can utilize, like the ones that I am going to show. Prometheus is very useful, and a lot of cloud providers and also customers that they have clouds on premises, they are leveraging a lot of Prometheus features, such as the ones that we can see here, like dimensional data, simple operation, precise alerting, powerful queries as well, a lot of visualization about whatever we are trying to measure and whatever we are collecting in terms of metrics, plus the fact that we have efficient storage when we use Prometheus because it's based on time series and it does memory allocation as well. It can be integrated with Kubernetes, it can be integrated with Docker, HA proxies, StatsD, a lot of open source. Another value proposition, another interesting offer that we can see is Grafana. Grafana allows us to visualize a lot of metrics as well, and a lot of customers are adopting Grafana, and a lot of solutions that are sold through different vendors utilize Grafana as well as a dashboard. This is an example of a dashboard in Grafana. We can see measurements in regards memory, CPU, login, system, timeouts, whatever we collect, we are going to be able to put together and see those measurements. We are going to be able to portray those counters in a graphic way. Thanos is another open source that has an integration with Prometheus and basically is utilized for global queries and also for scalability scenarios. These are a couple of companies that are using Thanos. Log and metrics plus Prometheus, we can use Kubetail, that is part of Kubernetes, and also we can use Elasticsearch through Kibana. Logstash is one of the plugins that Elasticsearch has in order to monitor metrics. This is an example of a Kubetail for Kubernetes. And that's it.